There's a moment in a woman's heart that most people never see. It's quiet. It's unspoken. And once it opens, everything changes. She doesn't fall in love when you say the right words. She falls when she feels understood without having to explain herself. When your presence feels safe, not heavy. When your silence speaks louder than promises. Most men chase attention. But the men who truly touch a woman's soul do something different. They make her feel calm in a world that constantly pulls her apart. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. By the time a woman realizes she's in love, her heart already decided long ago. If you've ever wondered why some men are unforgettable, stay with me. Because what you're about to hear may change the way you see love forever. Comment your location where you're watching from. Subscribe to the channel for more deep psychological insights on love and attraction. When we talk about how women fall in love, we have to start at a place most people completely overlook: emotional safety. Not attraction, not chemistry, not excitement, but safety. On a psychological level, a woman's nervous system is constantly scanning her environment, asking one question: am I safe here? Safe to express, safe to soften, safe to be imperfect. Love cannot grow where the nervous system is in defense mode. This is why intensity without stability feels exciting at first, but eventually becomes exhausting. Emotional safety is created by consistency, when your words match your actions, when your presence feels steady rather than chaotic, when you don't disappear emotionally the moment things get real. A woman begins to relax when she senses that she doesn't have to perform to earn your attention, that she won't be punished for expressing her truth, and that her emotions won't be minimized or mocked. This doesn't mean being passive or overly agreeable. In fact, emotional safety often comes from strength that is calm, not forceful. A man who is grounded in himself doesn't react impulsively, doesn't take everything personally, and doesn't try to control outcomes. He listens not to fix, but to understand. He allows silence without rushing to fill it. And in that space, something subtle but powerful happens. She starts to feel seen. Philosophically speaking, love begins where recognition happens. When someone feels recognized at their core, they feel less alone in the world. That feeling is deeply bonding. It signals to her subconscious that you are not a threat, not a challenge she must conquer, but a place she can return to emotionally. Many men think they have to impress a woman into loving them, but love is not impressed into existence. It is invited. Emotional safety is the invitation. It's shown in how you respond when she's vulnerable, how you handle disagreement without withdrawing or exploding, and how you remain emotionally present even when it would be easier to shut down. Over time, her heart learns that being with you feels lighter, clearer, more grounded than being without you. She associates your presence with peace. And peace is not boring, it is rare. In a world full of noise, unpredictability, and emotional whiplash, peace becomes magnetic. This is also why women often fall in love quietly. There is no dramatic moment where everything suddenly changes. Instead, there is a gradual softening. Her guard lowers, her trust deepens. She begins to share parts of herself she doesn't offer easily. And long before she says the words out loud, her behavior has already shifted because emotionally she feels at home. Love at its core is not about intensity, it's about endurance. It's the ability to stay open without fear. So if there's one thing to reflect on, it's this: when you become a place of emotional safety, you don't have to chase love. Love finds its way to you. Once emotional safety is established, something deeper begins to unfold, and this is where many people get confused. Women don't fall in love because everything is revealed all at once. They fall in love when there is space to feel. Mystery is not about hiding or manipulating. It's about having depth, direction, and an inner life that doesn't constantly seek validation. Psychologically, the human mind is drawn to what invites curiosity. When a man has purpose, of values, and a sense of self that exists beyond the relationship, he creates a natural tension that keeps her emotionally engaged. She doesn't feel the need to escape or chase reassurance because she senses substance. And substance holds attention far longer than excitement ever could. Emotional depth shows up in how you communicate, not in how much you say, but in what your words carry. It's the ability to speak thoughtfully, to reflect before reacting, and to express ideas that come from lived experience rather than rehearsed lines. A woman begins to feel emotionally invested when conversations move beyond surface level exchanges and into meaning, into beliefs, fears, aspirations, and interpretations of life. This kind of depth invites her to lean in, not because she's being pulled, but because she's genuinely curious. Philosophically, love is born in the space between what is known and what is still unfolding. When everything is predictable, emotion goes flat. When there is depth, emotion stays alive. There's also a subtle power in restraint. When you don't rush to define everything, explain everything, or lock everything down, you allow her imagination to participate. And imagination is where emotion amplifies. She begins to think about you when you're not there, not because you're absent, but because you've left an emotional imprint. This is not about playing hard to get. It's about being whole. When a man's life is full, his presence feels intentional rather than needy. That intention communicates confidence without saying a word, and confidence, when paired with emotional intelligence, feels deeply attractive. Many people mistake oversharing for vulnerability, but true vulnerability is selective and grounded. Emotional depth doesn't mean unloading. It means revealing yourself with awareness and timing. This shows emotional maturity. A woman feels safer investing emotionally when she senses that a man understands himself. Self-awareness creates trust, and trust creates space for love to grow. Over time, curiosity turns into emotional attachment. She doesn't just like being around you. She begins to feel connected to who you are beneath the surface. And this is where love quietly takes root. Not through intensity or urgency, but through presence and meaning. So reflect on this when you cultivate depth and allow mystery to exist. You don't have to chase emotional connection. You become someone worth discovering. When everything we've talked about begins to come together, something profound happens, often without either person consciously realizing it. A woman doesn't simply fall in love with a man. She falls in love with how she feels about herself in his presence. This is not sentimentality, it's psychology. Human beings attach emotionally to experiences, not just individuals. If being around you consistently brings out a version of her that feels calmer, more confident, more expressive, and more alive, her emotions begin to associate those feelings with you. Over time, that association becomes attachment, and attachment deepens into love. This is why presence matters more than performance. You don't create this effect by impressing her or trying to be everything she wants. You create it by being grounded in who you are. When a man is emotionally regulated, attentive without being intrusive, and confident without being arrogant, he creates an environment where a woman feels free rather than evaluated. In that freedom, she begins to show up more fully. She laughs more easily. She speaks more openly. She takes emotional risks. And each time she does, her mind quietly notes, I feel good when I'm with him. That internal realization is powerful because it feels self-generated, not forced. Philosophically, this is where love moves from desire into meaning. Desire is about wanting something outside of yourself. Meaning is about becoming more yourself through connection. A woman begins to sense that being with you aligns her more closely with who she wants to be. She may not articulate it this way, but emotionally, she feels expanded rather than diminished. That's why control, criticism, or emotional unpredictability erodes attraction so quickly. It makes her contract. Love requires expansion. It requires a relational space where both people can breathe. This also explains why emotional leadership is so important. Leadership here doesn't mean dominance, it means stability. It means you set the emotional tone by how you handle stress, disagreement, and uncertainty. When you remain centered instead of reactive, you give her permission to relax into her emotions without fear. Over time, she stops bracing herself. She stops questioning your intentions. And in that softness, intimacy deepens. She doesn't fall in love because you convince her to. She falls because her body and emotions feel safe, energized, and valued around you. Perhaps the most subtle part of this process is that love often arrives quietly. There is no dramatic shift, no sudden declaration. Instead, there is a realization that she misses your presence, trusts your perspective, and values your emotional influence. By the time she becomes consciously aware of her feelings, they've already been forming beneath the surface. This is why genuine connection cannot be rushed or engineered. It must be lived. So here is the reflection to carry with you. If you want to be loved deeply, focus less on being impressive and more on being someone around whom others become their best selves. When you create that experience, love doesn't need persuasion. It becomes inevitable.